like I was talking, Spider-Man Brand New Day came out this weekend and is maybe going to be the biggest opening weekend for any movie ever. It's Sunday, so we'll see. And that brings our total of Spider-Man movies to 11, nine live action with two Spider-Verse animated films that are excellent. And then if you wanted to get even crazier, you can also say you got five extras between the three Venom movies and Morbius and Madam Web if you are feeling frosty. But I am going to actually stick to just the 11 Spider Man movies today, which is a rare for me to not throw in as many movies as I can into a ranking. But Spider Man fans are easily pissed off, and I didn't want to piss anyone off by saying how many movies I would put below Morbius. So let's get right into it. I that out of these 11 movies, um, there are like a solid handful of them. But more than anything, I'm looking at this ranking and I can definitely say this is like my definitive ranking. Sometimes it's like the type of thing where the top five are the good ones, the top bottom four are like the definitive bad ones. Like I think of something like a DCEU ranking. Any day of the week, my least favorite DCU movie could be Blue Beetle, Justice League, Black Adam, or Suicide Squad. Just to name like four off the top of my head half star movies from that franchise that are all like to me varying degrees of horrible. You could make an argument for any of them being the worst. On a ranking like this, I'm looking at all 11 and I'm like, yeah, this is in the exact order I would put them in. And I think I'm feeling so confident about that because I just rewatched all these movies this summer. As a matter of fact, I guess I would know that that is why I'm feeling more confident about this than your average list because I actually did all the homework and rewatched all the films um, instead of just a few here or there. Like I really rewatched all of them, and this is just whenever I do a ranking, it's the order of which I enjoy them and would want to rewatch them the most. So coming in at 11, and on that note, the movie that's at number one is the only one on this list I've seen twice this year. So obviously, it's the one I would rewatch the most. So that's just the context for which I make rankings. And the one that would easily come in last place in terms of rewatches, just because I don't like this movie every single time I rewatch it, is Spider-Man Homecoming. It is a movie that I thought was completely fine when I saw it in theaters when I was 13. Like I didn't even love it then. Like at that time, I thought, oh, that wasn't as good as like the Amazing Spider-Man or definitely the Raimi ones I grew up on. Um, but I thought it was cool that like Iron Man was in it with him. Watching it now, it's like, well, there's way better movies with Spider-Man and Iron Man in it, and this feels like barely a Spider-Man movie. So it is like the one that also, Far From Home is really bad about the Iron Boy Jr. tech stuff too. I don't like all the tech stuff that they do in the MCU with Spider-Man, and especially his suits. The suit in Brand New Day is, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. But up until Brand New Day, I don't really know if I liked any of the MCU Spider-Man suits. But Homecoming also is by far the worst one. It is just um, so techy and over designed. Excuse me, just had to take a sip of water. But yeah, Homecoming has Michael Keaton is a huge plus for that movie. Otherwise, it just doesn't do much for me. I think it's because pre Endgame, my least favorite little era of Marvel, excuse me, was the 2000 like 16 to 17 era. Just because I thought it was really dumb of them to break up all the superheroes and it made them all really unlikable. So like even this version of like Iron Man, I'm like, well, like he barely feels like a cohesive character because the last time I saw him he was being a dickhead. But that's neither here nor there. Um, it just it feels weird to jump in at this point with that character is all I'm saying. Um, and this movie's just not funny. It gives me nothing that I need out of a Spider-Man movie. So that's why it's in last place. Moving on. Coming in at 10 is Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, I can also say I've rewatched this one as many times as Homecoming at home in the 2020s, which is once. Um, which It's surprising to me. I had tried to watch this. I got the Blu-ray of it back whenever it came out, and I thought, oh, I really don't like this at all. Whenever I was watching at home, and I thought I was just in a bad mood that day. Never finished it. So I looked on Letterboxd. I'll plug my Letterboxd, putting that down below in the description if you want to follow me there. I love following people back. Shout me out in the comments on one of my reviews or something you found me here, and uh, I'll be thrilled to follow you back. But I just say about Letterboxd to say that I keep track of when I've watched movies, how many times I've rewatched them, and I never rewatched this. Technically, because like I said, I didn't finish it, so I didn't log it back when I tried to watch it. So I had never seen this at home in its entirety until this past week, and this almost went below Homecoming, which I thought would be impossible because, like, in my mind, I know I don't like Homecoming. If that makes any sense, like, it's the type of movie for the past 5 years. If someone mentions, it, I go, no, I don't really care for that one. No Way Home, I would go, yeah, I had a really good time with that movie. And then watching it at home, it was like really disappointing. And it's like, oh no, I'd put that like right on the same tier as Homecoming. Other than yes, the moments hit like the moments between Toby and his villains, Andrew Garfield and his villains are great. It's just the fact that like as an actual movie and like as actual characters, none of this makes sense or works. It actually fucks up the entirety of Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man, in my opinion, by giving him a Green Goblin, giving him a Doc Ock, an Electro, a Sandman, a Kirk Connors Lizard that are from different universes. So he has no idea who these people are outside of just, villains out of context. It only works as an audience member. As like an actual movie and as an actual story, it's such a butchering of Spider-Man and also like destroys any sort of like groundwork or future for like making this a more faithful Spider-Man story or making this feel like Spider-Man, which really hindered my enjoyment. I think a brand new day. I think that because they chose to follow the path set by this movie, it kept not feeling like Spider-Man to me. We're 4 movies in, and it still just doesn't feel like Spider-Man. It feels like they're putting the character, the idea of Spider-Man in the MCU, which is fine. Which is completely fine because, you know, that can be my least favorite era of Spider-Man. That can be the lower half of a ranking like this. Doesn't mean they're terrible movies. They're just not really for me. And I'm much more entertained and interested in the New York City and the characters and the environments being explored in the other 2 continuities because I also think visually they're a lot more striking on a cinematic level. Um, no Way Home is like really hindered by having these actors and these characters from movies that you like love and you think about shots from and like different things and you think about the way you remember these characters and like they don't really look like that and it's not because they're old. Like I like Alfred Molina doesn't look or resemble Doc Ock not because he's old but because he's on the 2020 digital green screen landscape, not being shot by Sam Raimi with beautiful cinematography and, well, Bill Pope, I think, was the cinematographer. Anyways, uh, I think it's so frustrating that, these movies aren't committed to excellence. This movie can come out this weekend and make the most money ever. And it's like, but we all just saw The Odyssey 2 weeks ago and we saw how movies should look and how movies should be made. Can we please ask for a little more, especially from the ones that everybody on earth turns out to? And there's no way to communicate that because if they keep making money, then they'll just keep making them and they'll keep making them the cheapest way possible. So they'll keep looking like shit, even though they cost $200 million. It doesn't make sense to me doesn't make sense to me, and it's really frustrating. So that will move me on to number 9, Spider-Man: Brand New Day, because I have a lot of the same complaints. On a technical level, like I did not care for any of the action, all the web swinging. It all just feels so artificial, and like I want New York to look real. I want New York to look beautiful. Like, it looks like London with CGI buildings of New York put onto it and composited into it. It doesn't feel authentic. Like not and like please tell me actually specifically about these shots if you like them and what you like about them. in just an interesting, like cinematic way. Like as a film fan, I'm just curious. The shots of him in slow motion recreating like classic comic book covers and stuff look terrible, and like it's just playing a pop song over CGI images of Spider-Man doing things, and that makes me feel nothing. And the like battle with the hand in the third act, I was like, Spider-Man's about to fight some ninjas. This is at least going to be fun. And there's so many shots of like horrible CGI flying daggers, and the webs look awful. And I think it was trying to be like Spider-Man PS4 action, and if that just didn't translate to screen to me, I don't know. I talk to my friends about this. When you go to a movie, there are different things you go for. And for me, I actually will like tolerate a worse script, or less focus on a story, a focused story, um, if a movie has amazing visuals and cinematography and things like that, and it sounds good and things like that are more important to me than maybe what's on paper. This movie made me think, hey, I really I I need this to look good, and it's not. So it frustrated me, as well as the central villain, and lack thereof, if you will, frustrated me and made the entire second half feel like a slog. All the stuff with Punisher and the Hulk was great and a very good time at the movies, and a good way of incorporating Spider Man into a grander cinematic universe. All of that worked for me. It just was the actual execution of it didn't feel like a Spider-Man story once again. It felt closer. It was more New York based this time than the first two in this trilogy, and it was much more actual character and Spider-Man driven than the last one. And I thought all the stuff with like his like, loneliness and struggling with that was actually really well done as well. Um, so this is a mixed bag for me. It's not a bad movie by any means. It's just, a movie that I know I'll probably be more annoyed with on rewatch as well, because of how much of the second half dragged on a first watch. But we will see. Coming in number 8, Spider-Man: Far From Home, and this is the MCU Spider-Man movie I've seen the most by far, because I saw this in theaters alone. I think 4 times, and then I've seen it at home several times. I think it's just because Mysterio, growing up reading Spider-Man comics, was always my favorite villain, and I will 100% acknowledge all faults I've leveled at every Spider-Man movie below this can be leveled at this, and tenfold, because it goes to Europe instead of New York. Now, I would actually prefer a movie that just completely goes to Europe, rather than like Washington D.C. and just putzing around on the outskirts of New York, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, all the same criticisms can be leveled at this for sure, especially the Iron Boy Jr. tech stuff. The stuff with the glasses is so dumb. Like, could have used just a little more thought on the way they wrote that. But the Mysterio, it all goes back to what I was just saying about what I go for a movie for. The Mysterio stuff visually is the coolest. And by that virtue, the Mysterio stuff in this and the Punisher stuff in Brand New Day are what put them at 1 and 2 for me out of the MCU Spider-Mans. They are absolutely like the stars of each of those movies. It kind of is like the villains in the Nolan Batman movies, how they would completely outshine Christian Bale's Batman. Not to dog on Batman at all. He's a fine Batman, but you know what I mean. Mysterio and Punisher do that in these two movies for me, and that elevates them to, uh, you know, being solid movies that I would prefer over the Homecoming and No Way Homes of the world. Coming in at number 7 is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I know this usually goes at the bottom of most lists. Um, I I think about this movie, and I think about all the criticisms I've always understood, all the criticisms I've always felt like I don't care for Harry Osborn in this at all. I don't understand the way they handled the Osborns in this, especially if they're going to lean into it so fully. Why they didn't establish anything in the first movie, and why they would just kill off Chris Cooper, the excellent actor Chris Cooper. Why they would kill him off as the Green Goblin, and then just have Harry be maybe they had a whole plan for the future that we don't know. And I think the further we get away from this movie, the more any of those criticisms I feel and all the issues of them setting up future movies wash away because this movie looks beautiful. This is like maybe the best cinematography of any Marvel action I've ever seen. Not as a movie, but the action is just fantastic. Um, I think that's because the Electro stuff was shot really cinematically. But the third act fight with the Green Goblin, as much as I don't like that Green Goblin that much, is a great fight. The sequence of Gwen Stacy's death is fantastically done. Um, I think that their relationship carries so much here in a very genuine way. As someone that complains when I don't feel anything and I don't feel like characters feel real, Tom Holland and Zendaya are married in real life. And I, one of the first things I said walking out a brand new day to my wife and friend was, why was Zendaya in that? She's such a talented actress and they're giving her nothing. They're giving her nothing. And when you go back and you look at what Gwen Stacy's doing in this movie, it's like, is she getting given that much more to work with? Not really. Little bit, but what they find a way to do with them setting ground rules for what they can and can't do as friends, her doing her obnoxious laugh. That's the type of stuff you can only get out of two actors that are being genuine and real with each other. I never feel that with Tom Holland and Zendaya in these movies. That's because I don't think they shoot them in a way that they can actually be natural at all. But this was shot on location. This was shot in Times Square in New York. This was shot in the Big Apple, and it feels authentic. And whenever you see them walking and talking on the street, it feels authentic, and that just does so much more for me that I can overlook all the moronic bullshit with his parents and the beginning of this movie, the setup there, the deleted scene of his dad at the grave at the end. This shit is that's where they were completely losing the plot. But there is some good stuff here. And as someone that grew up reading Ultimate Spider-Man comics, that's where I say like some of the criticism I never understood. Jamie Foxx's Electro's never bothered me, not once. Yeah, my dad hated this whenever we saw this in theaters. Whenever I was a kid, hated it, and he could not stand Electro because he was so excited to see Electro in the movie, and then he was like, "He's fucking blue. Why is he blue? Why is he blue and bald?" And I was like, "No, it's okay. It's okay." And I show him. He's like, "No, that's stupid. No, that's stupid. He should have been green and yellow. Maybe one day. Hey, a little bit there in No Way Home. They half-assed it. Number 6 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And this is one that I look forward to rewatching again because the last time I rewatched it, I did not like it nearly as much as the first couple of times I'd seen it. And that, once again, is the only time I've seen it at home. The first two times I saw it in theaters, the last time was at home. I showed it to my dad. And maybe I was just, not feeling it that day, but I thought, oh, or maybe it's just because I need the second half to come out. But the ending really did leave me thinking, I can't believe this just doesn't have an ending. The same year Fast X came out and did that same thing. It's like sometimes you can just let it slide, especially whenever you just got out of the theater and it was a cinematic high. But whenever you watch a whole 2.5 hour movie at home with your dad, it's like, oh, no payoff. So that was really felt the last time I watched this, as well as just I think the first one is that special effect of it was so creative and so original and unique the first time you see it that this time around it's just a bunch of Spider-Man and I don't really care for it like Spider Punk or any of like not that I don't like Spider Punk but like I don't think any of the ones they introduced were anywhere near as fun as like Spider Noir or Spider Ham. But it was solid, and I really liked Miguel O'Hara as the villain. Number 5 is the first Amazing Spider-Man, and this one bumped up above the second one and Far From Home and Across the Spider-Verse on this rewatch. I used to have this bottom 3. I always liked it as a kid, and then the last time I'd watched it, I thought, it's fine. And then this time around, I was like, you know what? No. They played it safe in a lot of ways. It was only 5 years after the last Spider-Man, only 10 years after the first Spider-Man. And they did a lot of the same beats. They changed some things dramatically, and it's really funny to look back on it that our biggest complaints back whenever we saw movies like this in 2012 was his goggles are orange, his hair is too pretty, he's too hot. They showed Uncle Ben get killed again, and it was pretty much the exact same. So I think it's pretty funny that like that's what our complaints used to be, and now these movies, to me, have like lost the plot so deeply as Spider-Man movies just to be a part of the MCU that it's like, oh, this movie is like fantastic compared to the any of the Tom Holland ones, especially action wise and once again cinematography. Um, the sequences are just so well done. I guess I don't know if Mark Webb is secretly an action genius because he only makes like 500 Days of Summer and Gifted and good character dramas outside of this, but The Only Living Boy in New York, notwithstanding. But yeah, I think that this is severely underrated in the grand scheme of overall superhero movies. I mean, it's a great origin story. It tells its story in a different way than the first Raimi one did. It is a much more reckless Spider-Man. The note of ending with his smile, knowing he's not going to be able to keep his promise to Captain Stacy, and the trauma and tragedy that comes with that, actually is much better storytelling and much more mature storytelling than you typically get out of comic book films. And I really appreciate that Sony was willing to swing with stuff like that in these. I just wish the lizard had a better design. I don't really care for the way he looks, but I really like Rhys Ifan as an actor, or Rhys Ifan. Um, he showed up in Venom 3, and I thought for sure he'd be the lizard. He's just playing a hippie in a van. That was really weird. Number four is, and this is tough. Four and three are very close. This is the one on the ranking. If I said this whole thing was definitive, these are the two that really could switch. But right now, number four, Spider-Man 3. This is a movie that I watched constantly as a kid because nothing went harder than Black Suit Spider-Man. I loved Sandman, and I really loved Venom. So I really liked the Hobgoblin too. I had a bunch of action figures of him. I was a little Spider-Man 3 nut, and it holds up. It's hilarious. Everybody knows it's the funniest one because every scene is pretty much a laugh out loud joke at this point, or has been referenced or memed. It is just so unironically hilarious start to finish and entertaining, just relentlessly entertaining. Great, great action sequences. The third act is nuts, just absolutely nuts. Goes on for so long. Has so many funny moments. I really enjoy the third act. One of my favorite parts is whenever he's trying to use the force to pick up the pipe, and then finally he just whips and does that. Topher Grace and my spider sense is tingling, if you know what I mean. I love this movie. It is a blast. But number three is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse because it is just so unique and really blew the doors off whenever it came out. All animation, like Ninja Turtles and stuff, has followed suit and replicated its style. Miles Morales is just completely in the mainstream now because of this, and that's awesome. I remember like having to convince my dad after I'd already seen this with my uncle. Whenever I was like 15 or 16, you got to go see this with me. It's really good. And he's like, an animated Spider-Man movie, okay. And then he loved it. Kingpin being the villain is so cool, like such a great choice. And I think this really did bring on a lot of um, public acceptance of like the multiverse concept because kids were able to watch this and so many people saw it. So it's a very unique movie, very good movie. Number two, I have Spider-Man 2. Doc Ock is great in this. Um, I think that Alfred Molina is a lot of fun, and the sequence with the tentacle arms is right out of Evil Dead. The absolute standout of the movie for me. Um, yeah, I think that him losing his powers and that whole arc is great. Just a really good, mature superhero movie. But number one for me, the one I've seen twice this year, is the original Spider-Man. Just such a great origin. To me, the best origin movie of superhero movies. Um, I'd take it even over Batman Begins. You don't get Batman Begins without a movie like this in the first place. And that even goes for like all future superhero movies. And you get Blade and X-Men before this, but you don't get all the stuff that you get out of this or after this without this coming out. And being the first one, I think that it's so well done and is my favorite Spider-Man movie. So let me know yours down below in the comments. Thank you for watching. God bless. Have a great day.